everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm pleased to see that we got you know people from around the globe. The joy of being on the internet and that fantastic. So welcome everyone. Myself and David from Avon and Somerset Police, we're gonna give you a little bit of an introduction to amped replay, which is the we refer to it as the forensic video player for law enforcement and applications that regards criminal justice and investigations. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. We're going to do some hands-on, show you some of the stuff that you can do and how it can help you. And I'll show you a little bit of the software, and then David will talk about how AMP Replay is actually already helped and is helping them, where they with their processing and and also in view to accreditation and level tier access to certain abilities and things like that. Anytime you got a question and that, feel free to put them in the chat. I think there's also a Q&A box. I might not see them straight away, but rest assured that when I do keep my mouth shut, I will have a look at them and catch up with all the questions that we have. All right, I'm Emi. I've been with AMT since for a couple of years now. Initially doing support, now mainly doing training, technical marketing, conferences and things like that. I do like to move around every now and then, go and travel the world and then see people. So whatever the training and the conferences takes me, I always like to catch up with the colleagues and friends all over the world, really. So I was in the US a couple of weeks ago. Might be some of you guys from Lever that attended, or some of the guys attended the Lever symposium back then. And then I was in Singapore last week, so here I am now online. All right, I am based in the UK, and I used to work for a number of police forces, Bedfordshire, Essex. I also work private forensic firm, doing video forensics mainly. I've got a Bachelor of Technology, Multimedia Systems Engineering, and I'm also a Lever certified analyst. I used to work in television back in the days until I got laid off, and sort of stumbled into this industry almost by accident, and then actually fell in love with it and never looked back. All right, so just a quick introduction about our company. So we are a fairly small independent company. We're about between 40 and 50 people now. Italian company, founded in 2008. We've got a subsidiary in the US, an actual separate entity, if you like, but still part of the Italian armed company. Our mission right from the start, right from Martino, our CEO, started it as a thesis project, really, because that's how AMP started, was to become a one-stop shop for any needs related to image and video analysis and enhancement. So anything to do with your forensics, whether that's analysis, processing, clarification, measurement, presentation, everything like that. We're into that business alone. Okay, we just do that, and we're trying to do as best as we can. Our vision is justice through science, so everything we do is transparent, using forensic safe methods. That you can report on and you can explain. Okay, and we have a lot of tools in our product to help our user understand on how they process and analyze their imagery, and if needs be, explain it to a layperson in a court scenario, etc., etc. We operate in more than 100 countries, and we have 4 products which we refer to being part of an ecosystem. So they all kind of linked together. Okay, so they kind of like offer a specific need in regard to video forensics. Starting from a DVR Convo, which is effectively a batch forensic video converter, then going into AMP Replay, which is the product we're going to concentrate a little bit more on today, which is a forensic video converter, but also allow you to do some basic clarification as well as annotations and redactions, and the tools to present your evidence quickly and efficiently, even if you're not an expert. You're not you're not a skilled video technician. Perhaps you're a police officer or an investigator. You've been charged and you've been tasked with looking at CCTV and maybe producing some stills, some video for the prosecution, for the media, etc., etc. That's what AMP Replay does. AMP5 is our mainstream product, really. AMP5 is mainly for the analyst, for the technician, It takes care of anything to do with conversion, analysis, clarification, advanced clarification techniques, measurement, and presentation. And then we got AMP Authenticate, which is, it doesn't process images and video as such. It just more like it's got analytical filters for the purpose of establish the origin and the history of images and video, and whether they are actually showing what they purpose to do, right? So authenticity. Okay, so that's our ecosystem in there. So why are we talking about video so much? And more we talk about it when connected to criminal justice. It's because the opportunities are keep increases all the time. Video evidence is the best visual representation of what occurred, but it needs to be reliable, and therefore we need some niche tools, if you like, that we can use to analyze them. The issues that we get associated with video, some of them are kind of taken for granted. The format is not supported. How many times will we come across this? I'm sure there will be a lot of people in this online room that have got CCTV coming from a specific place, and it just won't play. Okay, we need proprietary software. We need codecs. We need elements that if we don't have them, we simply won't be able to view that video. And there are so many of them, okay, and each manufacturer does it in a different way. We have limited control on correcting the image. We also now have a specific need to redact sensitive information, quickly annotate the video. Why? Because there are legislations out there, Data Protection, Freedom of Information Act, which require us to take out or hide certain elements of the video or the audio as well, before they can go to court. For example, personal details of witnesses, unrelated content, and things like that. And we will see how we AMP replay. You don't need to be a video editor to do these kind of things. You can do them easily and efficiently and safely, most importantly. Okay, so now other challenges there, incorrect techniques, insufficient software to correctly capture individual frames or clips. This is quite a big issue. It's always been a big issue, but more recently, okay, there's an understanding from the legal community that the acquisition of video is very, very important. It needs to be done correctly, not just for visual quality, but sometimes to retain data as well associated with the video. For example, timing information, timestamps, and things like that. So we will see how we can do that, even with replay, fairly easily, very safely. So it actually seems easy, but it's really easy to get it wrong. And the problem that if something wrong happens, that might go unnoticed for a very, very long time. That's the issue. Proprietary video formats complicate investigations, because you need players, and you can't even access like certain players anymore on the internet, because of course there are IT restrictions in downloading, installing software and things like that. So it's all a little bit hard, right? The image quality, of course, is always an issue. We come to accept that, especially with surveillance video. If the video was of pristine quality, then we wouldn't be able to store so much of it. Okay, so it's something that we accept. There's now also the issue of trust. We can't always trust it. In fact, things are kind of like going from this to this. I remember when I started, every video was taken at face value. Okay, well, if that's what the video shows, then that's what happened. Now I see the opposite. Now you bring a video to the courtroom, and the first question they ask is, well, is he authentic? We first need to prove that he's authentic before we can make it into the courtroom. Then we need to interpret the video in the right way, and that can sometimes be a challenge as well because of technical limitations of the footage. And we need to do so without bias as well, which is also quite a current issue, very relevant at the moment. And then, of course, there is the black box topic. It's the explaining technical topics to a layperson, to judges and juries. They need to be able to understand what the image show or doesn't show, and we as experts need to allow them to understand this before they can make their decisions, important decisions about guilt or an acquittal. impact of artificial intelligence, and of course, balance between privacy and security. All this kind of stuff we need to keep in the back of our minds. So in the past, we always had different tools. You know, there might be people in this room that started with using maybe products that were more designed for broadcast and media, adapt them into our industry, and and then before we know it, we all got all these little different tools. We need to export from one tool, then import into another. And it becomes like a very, very complex workflow, if you like. None of these tools were created with forensic usage in mind. We just adapt them to be so. The integration, of course, because you need to go from one product onto another, and and potentially you could be deteriorating the quality of your evidence as you do so. That could be an issue as well. And the reporting is, of course, very important, and we will see how also all of our products really come with reporting tools that can assist you with that. All right, before we move on to show you a little bit of what Replay can do, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit on the very first stage of a video forensic workflow, which is the acquisition. So how do we actually get the video in? So we can look at it, we can analyze it, we can process it, etc., etc., especially when it's a proprietary. So we need to decode and convert proprietary CCTV formats. And therefore, in all of our products, and Replay is certainly one of them, the only one that doesn't is AMP Authenticate, we have a video engine, which we now refer to as the AMP engine, which what we'll do is we'll analyze a video, okay, both in terms of container and video stream, and perform a process of analysis to see in this video what is actually genuine video elements and what are proprietary elements. And there will be a process of stream extraction and segregation of the usable video elements from the stream, which will allow for correct decoding. And what I mean decoding is literally reconstructing compress the video and putting it back onto your screen, reconstructing all the pixels, reconstructing all the frames correctly, so that you can view exactly what that video is intended to show. Once we've done that process, then we will repack it into a compatible video container, because sometimes a video could have could be encoded in a proprietary manner, but it's actually, or sorry, the other way around. It could be encoded with a standard compression method, such as H.264 or H.265, but then it's packed into a proprietary container. And then in that instance, really, all we need to do is take that video and put it into a standard video container. Now, in this process is actually quite important, because by doing this process of stream extraction, where present, we can also extract a timestamp. And timestamp is not just what you see on the screen, is also actually a data set, okay, which you can extract from the file, and then you can use, to maybe not just to show the time and date, but also because you're doing a timing or a speed assessment or something like that, and therefore you need to have a correct and genuine sort of timing information about the frames in your video. Because this is how the process works. So we have a proprietary file with a proprietary container, and inside we have usually a video stream. And in this video stream, there are usable and recognizable video elements, so for example, H.264 or H.265 iframes and P frames, channel numbers, timestamps, and things like that, things that are necessary for video playback. And then we have them, scrambled with proprietary data, which we honestly don't know what they are, and usually only the proprietary manufacturer know what they are. So what do we do? Using the AMP engine, we do a process of stream extraction when we segregate this usable video data, and we put it all back together in the correct order. If the video is multiplex, then we will have a separate, video stream extracted by each channel. And then we extract the timestamp, and then using FFmpeg, once we have extracted the stream, then we will put it into a standard container like an AVI or an MP4 or something like that. Okay, so that's a little bit of a background behind video acquisition, and you see actually how it's easy to do it in replay. So what is it? A replay is a video player designed specifically for forensic use. Okay, so is the video player for police officers, investigators, members of the criminal justice system, and enforcement community. Has got an embedded MT engine, which we just discussed very briefly about. It can perform basic correction and enhancement safely and quickly, and it now has got like a has got the ability to provide tools and features on a level access basis. Okay, so especially in the UK, when there's now a need like for identifying if a person is skilled and trained enough to be able to certain things, then replay can be customized based on access to provide or to hide these features. We can easily annotate video and redact sound. Doesn't require technical background. Okay, so it's designed to be for police officers and investigators who are tasked to work with CCTV, even if they are not video experts. And he automatically generates reports and viewing log. Okay, so without further ado, now I'm just going to launch quickly a replay and show you really how what it can do for you. So the first thing I would say in regards to formats and things like that. So a lot of us most of the times will have to deal with something like this, right? So a folder or something like that, a device which contain possibly video, okay, but it's in proprietary format. If we double click on this, well, Windows simply doesn't know what DV4 extension is, so it's asking you what to do. If you try to open with something like VLC, it'll probably tell you, VLC will tell you, well, I don't recognize this file, I don't know what that is. So we need to sometimes, like, what we need to do is, well, if you got a player, okay, we can, like in this case we do, for example, we can attempt to play that video with the player, but then we are limited in terms of what we can do after we've opened it with the player. Can we export this video in proprietary format to a video in a standard format, and then we can use to send to the prosecution or something like that. Maybe the player doesn't allow you to do that. He's only got a snapshot tool. You can only take still images from that player. Or if they do, they won't export at the same quality as the original. So the purpose of the AMP engine and all products that use the AMP engine like Replay is to bypass the player and trying to deal with the video exactly as it is, exactly as it was recorded. And in Replay, it's just as easy as dragging a file from whatever location on your computer into the platform, and then what you'll see is that there will be that process of stream extraction that I would talk to you about. Okay, so in this instance here, I'm just navigating into a folder to show you that that process of clean extraction has actually happened in here. And we also got a timestamp extracted from the video, and then that has been stream extracted and then it's been converted into, in this case, into an AVI in there. We got a log, an audit log with this process that's taking place. This is an FFmpeg log. It just shows you that the stream has been copied over into an AVI container and everything is ordered in there. Now we got our video in here. We've got our timestamp also that we've been able to extract from the video. And then we can deal with all the things that we need to do. Now, I'll show you some of the stuff in terms of, practical stuff that you can do in Replay. So for that, I'm gonna go back and maybe import something where we can start drawing some annotations and doing some basic clarifications and things like that. So Replay works like this. You drag your video in and you got it right away in the middle of your screen. So you see at the top in here, you got 6 tabs. The first 2 tabs deal with actually locating video and importing into the platform. Okay, so you have options to navigate into folders, look at thumbnails and things like that. And of course, you have access to most recent projects. One of the good things about Replay is that anything that you do in it, okay, whether that's maybe you're taking some stills, you're doing some bookmarks, you're doing some clarifications and things like that, is that whatever you do, when you close the program, you haven't lost anything. Okay, everything will still be there. Okay, so now, for example, I'm closing my program and reopen it again. So I haven't actually saved anything. Okay, so I didn't save anything, and I just closed it down in there. But when I go and reopen it, all the stuff that I was working on is still in there. So, and this is designed specifically for, imagine if you are doing some work and you got a call and you're in a rush, you have to go out and on a job or whatever. You don't have to worry about having to save your project or losing your progress. Replay will remember it for you. So okay, so all that, and then you got a play tab in here. Now on the play tab, this is where you do your triaging of the video. So you got a timeline in there and you can scroll through it. You got an audio waveform as well. In fact, you got two. Okay, so this shows you the audio plots. If there is sound, it will be shown here in the form of waveform. You got two bars in there. One bar is the one at the bottom will show the audio on your entire video. And the top one, you can zoom in and out. Okay, because later you'll see that when we go and do some audio reductions, i.e. we take some audio away from the video, then we can go and zoom into specific segment, even on a very, kind of frame by frame basis in here, and we can do some real tailored and very meticulous kind of like audio editing, if you like, because you're zoomed in very close. And at the bottom in there, you would see exactly what section you got zoomed in at the top. So in here, you got it highlighted in blue. So at the moment, we are just looking at this portion of the sound in this clip in the top bar. So you see that a little bit later on, but very easy. You just hold the button on your keyboard, the control button, and then with the scroll wheel on your mouse, you just go up and down to zoom in and out. Okay, then what else can we do? Well, we can triage our footage. Now, one of the things that our users use replay for is just literally for, creating a storyboard of events. For example, in this video here, we have a car robbery, if you like. So we see bad guy in here is coming over. Straight away, I can go and bookmark an event. So I just click on this button here, add edit bookmark. We got a bookmark in there. It's kind of like you can see it like represented in here as a yellow line in your timeline. You can navigate through your bookmarks with, with buttons on your interface in there. And then when you are on a bookmark and click on the bookmark button again, then you can add the description. For example, suspect arriving or visible first seen on CCTV, something like that. Then click OK. And then you can go and have a look at other frames. For example, here we got a frame where a weapon is maybe seen. So we can add a bookmark in there and then just added a description, UK suspect carrying weapon or something like that. Then click OK. Then go forward. And here there's contact between the suspect and the victim, possible assault. Who knows? Well, we can bookmark that and then maybe have a look later. And then once we've done this, what we can do is, we can go into our export button in here. So we go at the top there, the export button in here. So in the export tab, you can export your video as an MP4 or something that you can pass on to your prosecution. You can export the bookmarks. So all these images that I've bookmarked, I can export them as individual images. And by the way, when you export bookmarks in Replay, what happens is that they are exported with the frame number. Okay, so a video obviously is made of many frames, and each one has an individual frame number, and then we can simply, when we export them, we can simply refer to them as their frame number in here. So all our bookmarked images. Here we go. So we've got frame number at the top in here. We've got timestamp or when it was created, and also got reference to the original file in there. So Everything is, you can always refer back to your original video, even when you export images. And then you can generate a report. So the report is kind of like very streamlined. It's kind of like a PDF document. And it's got details of your software. Obviously, when you created this report, details or your input file name with file hash and size and codec and resolution and frame rate and all that kind of stuff. It's got first and last frame, and then it's got your storyboard in there. Okay, so when you with your images, obviously, frame number, description if you've put that in one, and then so in Replay it's just very easy to create a storyboard without having to mess around with Word document or stuff like that. Okay, then something that we have recently implemented into Replay, which is kind of really useful for triaging, it's motion detection. Motion detection basically is the process of identifying motion in a video, and is pretty easy and straightforward in Replay in the sense that you can define motion simply as pixels that are recognized as areas or pixel regions moving from previous and future frames. Okay, so whenever that happens, that is detected as Replay as motion. To do motion detection from the play tab, you see every tab has got kind of like you got your video in here, and then here on the right side you got some panels in there. So on the play tab you got a basic file information panel, some case info that you can fill out. This is for your reports. Obviously, if you're producing reports, you can fill out the case information, location, and stuff like that. And in here we got a motion detection panel. So it's fairly quick. I mean, this video is half an hour long. You can see here the duration of the video. And once the process is done, is what you will have is you will have your motion detected pixel regions being highlighted with this kind of like transparent red overlay. So that is all the motion that is being detected. Okay. Okay, so once we've done this, then what can we do is, well, we can look for specific areas of motion. So, for example, if we got intelligence that someone has exited this building and has crossed the road, then what we can do is we can just click on this button here, set region of interest, and then pick out this area in here, okay? And that would just basically look for the motion in that specific area. Then what we can do is we can show and hide the motion plot. So now what you see in here, this is no longer the audio waveform. So this is actually the amount of motion that you see in the timeline, starting from the beginning of the video and ending at the end of the video. So the bigger the motion activity in a specific frame, the higher these peaks that you will get. So what can we do? Well, you see that there's all these highlighted areas that you see, they're all being detected as motion. Okay, so if we were to go through each and every one of them, we would be spending all day, and it wouldn't be any easier than to look for any activity in this area than doing this. So what we can do is we can set the threshold. Okay, so a threshold, as I move this slider in here, you can see this yellow line going up. Okay, so that will basically filter out events that have got a low emotion that is lower in amount to that set threshold. So in this case, what I probably would do, I would, start from a very sensitive threshold and see if I can find some activities. So you see at this level, there's only like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe motion events. And now that I've done this, I can navigate through them and see. So for example, here, okay, so we got this big vehicle passing through the road. Of course, that's just got a lot of motion in there, so it's being detected. Other stuff in there, and there's a vehicle in there going through. And then if I'm in doubt that I'm missing something, then what I can do, I can lower my threshold and see if maybe I'm missing something else and go forward and see. So vehicle in there. Go a little bit lower. Okay, there's no suspect that detected in that area in there. So maybe we can go and have a look at another region, maybe here, and see if we can find something there. And here we found some activity in there. Okay, so this system really allows you to make it time efficient, but at the same time you can adjust this threshold slider to ensure that you're not missing anything, basically, because that's the principle. And by the way, this process doesn't use any artificial intelligence. It's just based on standard pixel recognition and detecting pixels that are being basically moved from one frame to another. Okay, so that's how the system works. And once you've done that, you can also add bookmarks for your motion events. So all your motion events, once you set that threshold the right way, you can bookmark them and you can export them exactly as I showed you before. Okay, nice and easy. All right, so what else we can do? We can do something else that we can do is Replay has also got the ability to demultiplex video as well. So here, for example, we have an executable file, which you double click on, it will come on a player, and if you drop it into Replay, so that process of stream extraction will happen, will be attempted, and that's because Replay can see past the container and identify the video frames in whatever the container is. Now, in this instance, what's happened is that multiple streams have been detected. So whenever that happens, you have a number of additional buttons in here in your play panel, which will show your individual streams. Okay, just bear in mind though that these camera numbers may not necessarily be the actual camera numbers of the DVR, but they are kind of like the stream numbers detected in this process of extraction. That's why you get camera zero, okay, because that's really is video streaming zero in there. Okay, so when we've done this, we've also been able to get a timestamp that you can see here. Okay, so the timestamp, even though it's not on the screen, as I was saying to you before, it can be part of the data. Okay, so in this instance, we will be able to identify that in this process of stream extraction and add it in as data. And in here, well, there's a robbery going on in here. So what I want to show you on this one is quickly how you do some annotations in Replay. So what you can do is, I'll show you the enhance button in a second, but I'll skip that. These buttons are kind of like they are there for you to sort of keep in mind that you can go chronologically in this workflow. If you think about it, you load your video first, then you play it, then you might do some basic announcement, then you might do some annotation and reduction, and then you may export. Okay, so that's kind of like the standard workflow. But you can, of course, deviate, and do annotations first, for example, and then do announcements just as you need to. So I'm just gonna click on the annotate button in here. And in here, you got a bunch of options there for annotations. You can do arrows, you can do, well, free text really, but you need to have good handwriting for that. Certainly, I wouldn't use it. You can add text, you can add images onto an image or onto a video. You can do some reduction in the sense of hiding someone's identity on the video. You can do some magnification, which is actually one of my favorite annotations in Replay and 5, because 5 also got it as well. And you can do some spotlighting in here. So one of the cool things that we've added recently in Replay is that if you do have a timestamp and we extracted it as data, what you can do is you just quickly drag it and put it onto your video, right from what it is on the player, and just drag it onto your video, and then it becomes an annotations that you can have on your video in there. Once you got your annotation in there, so you get a lot of new options available there. You can customize the color. You can make it red, for example. You can customize the backgrounds. and do all that sort of stuff, make it bold and do whatever you like. Okay. So that is actually an annotation. Well, it's timestamp data that has been added to your video as an annotation. And then what you can do is, okay, so in this video here, well, what we could do is we've got a view, maybe possibly a weapon in there. It certainly looks like like a pistol, okay, but we can't be sure 100%, but that's what it looks like from the imagery. And what we can do is we can do some magnification. So we click on the button magnify, and then in here we got settings related to that particular annotation type. And what you do is you draw it on your screen, and that will actually magnify this region of the video. Then what we've got is we've got our blue dots in the middle of this rectangle that we can move to the area that we want to magnify. For example, here to show us a weapon. In here, then we can do some customization. For example, we can increase, the magnification size, so we can make it bigger. And then we can add a border. And actually, a very good one that I use a lot in Replay and 5 is the border type point zoomed area, which actually shows you, it shows you where the magnification comes from in your original video, and you got it in there. And then if you're asking why this looks so ugly in here in the magnification, well, that's because it's using nearest neighbor interpolation, which is basically a method of adding new data to your existing data. So when we enlarge an image, or when we magnify an image, we add new pixels to the original pixels. And the nearest neighbor, all it does is add pixel values that are duplicate values in terms of color and luminance of neighboring pixels. Okay, and it does so in 2 dimensions, horizontally and vertically, so that then your original pixels, which in reality are small dots, okay, which you cannot even see them individually, then are represented as squares. And that's basically what nearest neighbor allows you to do. So using this interpolation method, you can see the original pixels of the video. Okay, so each one of these little squares that you got are now the actual original pixels of the video. But of course, when we do this, we are now losing what those squares actually are meant to depict when they are put in together, when they're all combined together, which is why really the interpolation method that we would use is this one here, which is called bicubic, and this will do a process of no longer duplicating neighboring pixel values, but actually averaging values out in between neighboring pixel values. But will allow us to register the information better in our brain. Okay, so for presentation, but you can choose. Okay, so you got your being a forensic player, of course, you need to be able to decide what interpolation method that you want to use. And we got it in there as well. You can also change the contrast and the brightness and do all that kind of stuff. You can also you can drag any annotation, if you like, outside the image area. And then when you export this, now the image that will be exported will be all this canvas in here. Can make it a little bit easier. And we can add arrows and things like that very easily. Change the color, make it blue. Then we can add text as well. And one other thing I really like, that it's a fairly new feature. Well, first of all, when you draw new annotations, instead of changing the colors of them individually, then now you can use the color picker. So with the color picker, basically you changing the color of your annotation to something else that is in the viewer wherever you are hovering your mouse, which now, the mouse cursor basically is a color picker. So I just click on here on this arrow, and then my text will go blue. And then one other thing I really like, I'm very pedantic when it comes to centering things and make sure they are in the right position, and they don't look disordered and disorganized. And Replay has got a snapping function in here. When you drag your annotation around, they will kind of snap to specific landmarks. So, for example, in the middle of another annotations, or for example, in the middle of your video, or at a specific location in there. And then what you can also do is you can select multiple annotations and group them together. Right click and group them, and now you've got your annotation all locked together in there. Okay, so we've done that. And now what I want to show you is, please let me know if there are any. I'm just maybe give myself a chance to. Okay, so we got a few questions in there. Maybe I'll stop for a second and have a look at this question in here. So how much does amped replay cost? I currently have amped 5. Haha, Bill, I wish I could have the answer to that question. I'm only a techie guy. Okay. So for all that kind of stuff, I'm sure Michelle or someone, we can point you to the right place and you can certainly find that information out. So Jason is asking if the timestamp is inaccurate, can you adjust it so that it shows the correct time? Yeah, that is a good question. Okay, so at the moment in replay, you can't. You can, well, when I mean that you can, of course, customize any textual annotation as you like. Okay, but this particular timestamp in here is actually is what we call a macro. So it's a dynamic annotation, which is taking its data from the actual timestamp that we extracted from the file. So the timestamp that we extracted from the file is whatever the proprietary is written into that video. Okay, so that might be inaccurate to start with because it's proprietary and is misinterpreted. Okay, something that obviously we are very careful on not doing it. But as you probably say, it may be inaccurate because it's shifted from the real time. So the bad news is that you can't do it in replay at the moment, but you can do it in 5. The good news is that a request to be able to shift it, so to put an offset, okay, so that you can, show the real time. If there is a difference between the DVR time and the real time, then you will be able to do that very, very soon. Okay, so it's in the pipeline. And actually, a lot of the new feature requests, a lot of new features that we apply into our programs are mainly from our users, from sources like Discord channel or webinars. Okay, so certainly the fact that you asked here, it will be a further incentive for this feature to go into the program as soon as possible. Okay, so I see David is also helping as well with the questions. Thank you very much. All right, I think I'm catching up in there. All right, cool. Now what I want to do is I'm gonna and again this will all be saved. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm not losing any process in here, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load another video and now show you how easily it is to actually animate annotations. Okay, and again, this is something that in the old days only a video editor was allowed to do. All right, so you have to go to the video unit to do this. Actually, it's very easy. Okay, and there are quick and efficient ways of doing it, automatic ways of doing it, and it's also a manual way of doing it. Maybe if the image quality is not so good that the automatic doesn't work. All right, so here what we got this bad guy here. We got another bad guy here, and what happened in this video? He's clearly had an eye on that bag for quite some times, and now he's decided to come and snatch it. As he does, he's also being chased by a very brave member of the public, who I believe got it back to the owner. So all good news in this case. All right. So what we can do is we can track the suspect here, and we can animate the tracking. So what I would do is we go to the annotate tab, just like I did before, but this time we want to do it obviously in a video sequence. And therefore we want to animate our annotations. And actually what I'm going to do is, in this instance, I'm going to go and magnify the guy, because I'm also interested in his clothing as well, because that might be important to the investigation. So I'm going to do, just like I did before, magnification, and I'm going to use better quality, bicube interpolation, zoom in a little bit. But I don't want to zoom, I don't want to enlarge this rectangle. I want to make this smaller, so the area that I'm looked at is even more zoomed in. Okay, something like that. And then I move that blue dot in there. Okay, and I go like this. All right, now for the tracking, Okay, so what we want to do is, as this subject moves toward the victim, we want the rectangle to follow the subject around. So it's a process of animating or annotation, basically. And by the way, you can do this with all the annotations, and you work exactly the same way. Okay, so we can choose, right? So if the quality of the footage is good enough, all right, then we can use a method of automatic tracking, which basically what we'll do is we'll tell the program what pixels to look at a particular frame, and then throughout the other frames, then the program will follow those, will attempt to look for those pixels in their pattern, in their configuration, and follow them around for the other frames, however many frames we like. So what we'll do is I'll make this border a little bit smaller though. This is a little bit too big. Where is my border thickness? Here we go. Border thickness slider, make it a little bit smaller. What I'll do, I'll press the button track in here. And here what you do is you see two kind of outline. These are not actually rendered on your image when you export the images. These are just kind of like visual aids. And what you will do is you will tell the program which areas of pixels to look at. For example, the logo on this t-shirt is quite unique. You know, it's got enough pixel definition in there. You know, there's good contrast of values in there, almost to the point where we can see kind of a shape in there. So I'm telling my program to follow this around. Also, what I don't want to do is include the arms, of course, because the arms will move as the subject moves, and that may confuse the program in tracking that suspect. Okay. And then with the yellow one is basically we are kind of telling the program the estimated direction of movement of our tracked area. So we're kind of helping our software to look for this particular region rather than looking up, down, left, and right. We'll just look for that specific direction. It will make it a little bit easier and quicker to track. So once we've done that, then we just go ahead and click on the track button. We can also hold the button down and we can just double click on it, and then it will just go. And therefore, here we go. It will be tracked. This region will be tracked, and as you see, the rectangle is moving, and then the magnified area is on the subjects constantly until the point where, of course, this area of pixels that I initially set as my reference is disrupted. It's no longer visible because it's obscured by the arm, and then the process kind of falls apart. And now 5 is looking for it, so well, I can't find it, and he's just keeping it there, and the tracking is not working anymore. So not a problem, because up to this point I was happy. And now from this point onwards, I will complement my automatic tracking with some manual tracking. And manual tracking actually involves the use of keyframes. So for those of you who are not into the video editing words, well, keyframes are just basically registered positions of an annotation at a particular position in time. So at the moment, in a moment, I will add the keyframe. Actually, I'll do it now. I'll right click on this, and then I'll add toggle keyframe. And what you see an icon in there, kind of like a visual aid, okay, which basically tells you that there's a keyframe at this particular frame. So what happened is at this particular frame, so frame 222 of the video, the annotation is at this particular position, and that is being registered. Then what I'll do, I'll move my playhead across, for example, all the way up to here, which is where actually I want my annotation to stop. And then what I'll do, I'll move my blue dot at the location, at the new location where I want it to be at this particular point in time, and then add a new keyframe. Okay, so now we have two keyframes at two different positions in time and at two different locations. And what will happen in between the two, there will be a linear movement in between the two. So they will be joined in a line. And in fact, if you go back, you see that's exactly what happened. Of course, this object is not traveling in a straight line. So once I've got my keyframe in there, then what I will have to do, I will have to refine it a little bit. Okay, so go in between this old section here and keep adding more keyframes. There is also a keyboard shortcut for doing this, which is the U button, which you will find is so much quicker than having to right click and select the right options from the menu. And then I do it for as many times as I need to ensure that this suspect is kind of like inside that rectangle in there. So maybe here I'll put it a position in there, and I put a keyframe in there, and maybe one in here, and put a keyframe in there, up to the point where I am happy. And now I want my annotation actually to finish in there, so I'll just right click and select set until this frame, and then my annotation will stop here. And now I've got my subject is being tracked. Fairly easy. And you will see that when you start doing this a few times, it will be very quick and be very, very efficient. Okay, so now that I've done this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you quickly how to top and tail a clip, which you can do very easily in 5. What do I mean by top and tail? Well, you might have like a video that is very long. This video is not very long, actually. It's only like about just short of 20 seconds. But you may have an hour clip, and out of our clip, you're only interested in 20 seconds, where something like this may happen. Okay. So what you do is you just put your playhead to whatever you want your video clip to start, and then you click on the button and say start range. And then you put your playhead where you want your sequence to end, for example here, and then you click end range, and now you've got like a shade in here, which is basically your highlighted region. And then what you can do is you can just look at the old range, you can stretch it. So now what we're doing is just we are seeing the range that we just selected. And then when you go and export, that's the video that will be exported. It will be just the video that you topped and tailed. Okay, so sometimes you may not even do an annotation. You just want to top and tail a clip and dish it out, and it's very easy. You import it, you do your range, and then you export your original video. You can also export the actual clip exactly as it was in the original, but just a section of it, if you like. Okay, a process called lossless trim, or you can just export it processless. So if you do annotations and things like that, just like I did now, then you have your process stuff in there. Okay, so right, so just quickly, I want to show you, and then I'll pass on the word to David. I just want to show you how easy it is in 5 to do an audio reduction. And for those of you, you can do this with both video and audio, because Replay supports audio only now, and that's a fairly recent thing as well. Okay, before you needed to have a video, but you can just have just audio. And then, when you have audio, you just have your audio waveform. So you remember earlier when I say to you that you can zoom in into your audio specific audio section. Well, that's really, it becomes useful when you want to do some reduction. Okay, so in here, for example, I want to do some quick reduction. And what I mean by that is taking away chunks of audio from this file and replace them with silence or with a standard tone or something like that. So I go into the Annotate tab. And then you see here, you got audio reduction in here, and then you can simply hold down a button on your keyboard, the Alt button, and then drag the section on your timeline that you want to remove, and that will be highlighted. Then you can set the volume of your tone. You can do all that. And then that will be replaced. Once you've done it, you can hover over it and adjust it, trim it, and things like that. And you can add as many annotations as you like. And then on all your annotations, you can add comments and things like that. And then, of course, all this information, times and comments of your annotations will be in your reports when you later export it. So that's another thing. And then finally, very, very quickly, I'll show you just quickly how you can easily do some basic clarification. So for example, I've got this video here. I just drag it in there. And then you click on the Enhance button. And in here, you can correct things like interlacing or technical issues caused by analog to digital conversion. 5 has got 2 ways of doing this. It does it automatically, so it detects whether a video, for example, is interlaced or not by the metadata in the video and acts accordingly. The same with aspect ratio. The aspect ratio is the actual division between the horizontal and vertical resolution of your video. You can set it manually, or you can do an automatic adjustment. Again, data taken from the metadata of the file. All right. And you can do stuff like rotating, cropping, all the kind of stuff that you would expect an image processor to do. Do light correction, sharpening, resizing with whatever interpolation method that you choose, and all that kind of stuff. All right, so that is pretty much it for replay. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pass the ball to David from Avon and Somerset. He will tell you, he will give you some really good information on how the program helped them out, and it will also show you some statistics, which might be very interesting things to see. While I do that, I'll keep an eye on questions. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoy it. And I'll stop sharing my screen and I will pass the ball to David if you can hear us.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, David.
Thanks, Emi. Sorry, I managed to find my unmute button. Just want to apologize to everybody. I don't have my camera working today, so you're just going to have to listen to my dulcet tones, I'm afraid. Right, let me start sharing my screen quickly so we can get the show on the road.
We can see it nice and clear, David.
You got Lovely. It through? Good stuff. Okay, so let's get started then. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening. Don't know where everybody is coming from today. Just want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time to see Emi and I today. So as you can see on screen, my name is David Matthews, and I'm the Digital Video Unit Manager for Avon and Somerset Police, which is a member of the Southwest Forensics Collaboration, which covers pretty much the southwest of England. My team itself is a pretty small team. We cover a fairly large geographical area by UK standards anyways, and we're responsible for the complex recovery, processing, analysis, enhancement, and court presentation of all multimedia evidence. So the presentation that I want to go through with you today is, as soon as I get my mouse working, largely going to provide you with a bit of a high-level overview of how AMP Replay has supported our force with their investigations. I'm going to spend most of my time walking you through the business issues that we were faced with, which led to the decision to move ahead with AMP Replay as a product, as opposed to some of the other products that are on the market. I'll talk about the features in AMP Replay which have helped us to remain legally compliant, and then lastly, I'm just going to go over a few stats, as Emi was talking about, to show how the system has helped us in fairly high-level numeric terms. So I'm not going to be getting into the weeds of it. If you wouldn't mind, I'm not throwing questions at me during the course of the presentation. I'll pick those up when we get to the end, because I may answer some of those questions as we're going through. So just to give you a bit of sort of context to the whole thing. In July 2022, our force was faced with what was pretty much locally referred to as the perfect storm. We were faced with a host of internal and external issues which needed to be worked on for a whole host of various different reasons, all of which were going to impact on our ability to investigate CCTV. The first one being the Forensic Science Regulators Code, which is a statutory document which is brought in to ensure that any and all forensic science activity in the UK is completed to the standard expected of the Forensic Science Regulator. In addition to that, we have the NPCC, or National Police Chiefs Council, framework for video evidence. And I notice we've got a few people from that group on the call today. Andy, I see you there. That is another statutory document which supports the code by going into further detail on how CCTV evidence must be managed, whether that be the delivery of competency training for some staff or full ISO 17025 accreditation for others. Another one of the issues that we were facing was our criminal justice unit, or our case building team, was seeking to significantly increase or over double their full-time equivalent staff levels. The CJU roles themselves were updated to own multimedia preparation and redaction for case files. On top of that, we also introduced a new blended working policy in force, allowing for those CJU staff to work from home. So essentially what we've done is we've created a situation where we're dramatically increasing the size of a department, increasing the type of work that they're going to be doing. So they're going to be getting a lot more involved in the video and CCTV side of things, and then allowing them to work from home. But if they're going to work from home, how are they going to do that? And then the last major issue that we were faced with, and not an issue, just a thing, was was the National Enabling Program. Essentially what that is a national IT change process to bring all forces in the UK up to a standard, secure, modern, cloud-based system for all of their IT. So any of the products that we were going to purchase within Avon and Somerset to deal with CCTV and video evidence would needed to be compliant with that NEP rollout. We'd also introduced restrictions on just general software use within Force. And on top of that, we were going to make a decision to remove the majority of our standalone computers for this sort of thing, where historically we would have had standalone terminals in every single sort of office around our whole Force area for CCTV processing and review. We decided that we'd remove those. So, a bit of a difficult situation to be faced with. And why did we choose Replay? Pretty much after a thorough examination of the market and available software tools, and through some of the own testing that we'd done locally in my department, because we were going through the process of reviewing the forensic tools that we were going to be using, we pretty much landed on Replay as being the most appropriate choice to meet all of those needs. It's a process-driven and simple-to-use software, meaning that the training and competency requirements could be really easily met. It's configurable, so we could ensure that the tools provided to our officers met the requirements of the FSR code and the MPCC framework by tailoring the build itself to meet those requirements, like I was speaking about in the comment section a few minutes ago. It can also be deployed across our network, meaning that the management of that software by our IT team then becomes a simple situation. And crucially, going over what Emi has just been speaking about, it is a forensically sound application. On that simplicity side of things, what we really liked about it was that it had the drag and drop feature for being able to get videos into it. It sounds like a really, really simple thing, but when you're a regular frontline police officer who doesn't routinely have to work with multitudes of CCTV playing applications, what we often get asked in my department for is technical support on how do I get this thing playing. So just having a system to be able to drag and drop the files onto it and have it automatically decode and load those files was a massive selling point for us. The system itself has a simple interface which leads the user through that process. So essentially what Emi was just saying again. So being able to import the footage, being able to review it, apply any optimizations or basic enhancements to it, get your annotation done, and then export a report. And then there's lots of training material, which is updated regularly through the AMP software blog. The system owner itself can add and remove features. Entire tabs can be switched on and off in the system if you so wish, and individual filters themselves can be switched on and off. Custom groups of different features can be created for specialist teams. And crucially, there is no ability for users to add or remove features themselves, and we're able to deploy it across the network. So essentially what that means is what we have at the moment is a quite streamlined version of Replay deployed to all of our frontline officers. So I've sat down with some of my colleagues and we've reviewed the FSR code and we've reviewed the MPCC framework, and we've taken a look at what are those processes that are going to be suitable for our frontline officers for them to be able to continue doing their work without having to concern ourselves with them being non-compliant with the type of work that they're doing. So the system gave us the ability to be able to cut out some of those features so that we don't have to worry about those things. The system itself operates in a hierarchical review conversion system process where it'll start with your original format. If it needs to do a conversion, it'll opt for a stream copy and then go through to a transcode. That's a process that I really liked. Source files obviously being unaltered, high quality forensic reporting, and again, the inability for users to alter those export settings. Removing the opportunity for people to be able to mess around with bit rates, to be able to mess around with formats and all of that on their export settings was an absolute must from our perspective, but also for a must from our customers' perspective, our frontline officers. What they need is a system to be able to do their jobs, to be able to review, redact, annotate where necessary, and export without having to have significant technical expertise in how video works. So that was a massive selling point for us. So how has it helped? November 22, if you see the numbers there on screen, around that 338 mark. That was pretty much the average amount of exhibits that were submitted to my office, sort of leading up until that point. Some months I'd be a bit lower, some months I'd be a little bit higher, but on average, we're sitting around that 338 to 350 sort of exhibit mark. December 22, we ramped up all of the testing with our primary CCTV stakeholders who were busy working on this project whilst we were testing it. They were made up of our sort of burglary squads and our major crime team and our incident assessment unit. So the primary teams within our force who we'd identified as the sort of main stakeholders for this system, we ramped up all of their testing on it, which gives you an idea as to why those numbers have come down. In January 23, we then sent out our communications to our customer base to let them know that the system was coming and to inform them of the training that they needed to complete and the processes that they had to go through in order to secure access to the software. And then in February 23, that's when we released the software. The 127 number that you see at the end is the result of that reduction in exhibit submissions through to my department in the lab. And that has consistently stayed around that mark since we deployed Replay. So from around 330 to 350 exhibits on average per month, down to around 120 to 140 exhibits per month since loading this system into the Force network. Essentially what we've seen overall is a 20% reduction in the submitted cases to my department, a 50% reduction in the submitted evidence items to our department. So where those two numbers don't line up means that we're still getting roughly the same amount of cases submitted to our office. We just have less exhibits attached to those cases, meaning that we can get through those cases much faster. The turnaround time for my department has now been reduced from around 12 weeks from an exhibit being submitted to completion to around 3. Many weeks we can now get it done within 1 and 2. Most of our officers now have the ability to immediately investigate their crimes rather than waiting for their evidence to be processed by my department. And the feedback that I routinely get from our officers out on the ground is that they actually feel listened to, frankly, that they've got a system that works for them to help them with their jobs.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, and I really like to thank David for his really interesting insight, and also for the interactions from all our users, which has been really good. I'll just put out this slate in here just for people to so they can get in contact with me or with the company. We have a very talking about training and education as well. We have our blog, which is available from our website or from this address here, is full of articles that again are not just product based, but over the years have become really like a knowledge based, with anything to do with video forensics. And in the blog, the easiest way to find articles is just by using the search engine. For example, if you're looking some more information about interpolation we were talking about earlier, you just type that word down in the engine, and it will come up with a bunch of articles, and you can educate yourself. And we tend to provide this information to users when they have a specific problem, because we know we don't have to explain it again. It's already somewhere in the blog, if you like.